Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Speak Smart podcast. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into something you specifically asked about, using movies to really boost your English learning.
Yeah, it's a great topic. A lot of people learn languages through kind of traditional methods, but forget about the power of simply enjoying a film.
Yeah, and you've sent us some really interesting articles and notes on this, so let's jump in. The big idea here, it seems to be that movies offer this incredible natural immersion in English, right?
Exactly. It's not just about textbooks and drills. Movies let you hear authentic spoken English, the way people actually use it in everyday life, complete with slang and even cultural nuances you won't find in a textbook.
That makes so much sense. I'm already picturing myself picking up cool phrases and sounding way more natural. But where do we even begin? There are so many movies out there.
Well, one of your sources makes a great point about choosing a movie you already love, something you've seen before and really enjoy. Why do you think that is?
Well, if I'm already invested in the story, I'm probably more likely to pay attention to the language. Plus, it won't feel like work, right? I can just relax and enjoy the movie while my brain secretly absorbs all that English goodness.
Exactly. And since you're already familiar with the plot, you can really focus on the nuances of the language this time around. Pay attention to how the actors deliver their lines, the emotions they convey, and the way they use body language to enhance their message.
It's like watching with a whole new set of eyes. Or ears, in this case. One of the tips that really stood out to me was using subtitles strategically. Not just having them on all the time, but using them more as a tool to check my understanding or clarify any words I miss.
That's a really smart approach. One of your articles even suggested trying to listen first without subtitles and then turning them on for a specific scene or phrase if you need to. It's like a little challenge to push your listening skills.
Ooh. I like that. It's like a game to see how much I can understand without relying on the subtitles. And speaking of challenging ourselves, I saw a few sources mention shadowing. What's that all about?
Shadowing is a fantastic technique where you basically mimic the actors. You listen to a line of dialogue and then repeat it out loud, trying to match their pronunciation, intonation, and even their rhythm.
So it's like I'm trying to become the character for a moment.
Yeah.
Sounds fun, but also a little intimidating.
It definitely takes some practice, but it's an incredibly powerful way to improve your pronunciation and fluency. Think of it like a workout for your tongue and your ears. You start to pick up on subtle nuances in pronunciation that you might miss otherwise.
It's like training my ears to become more attuned to the sounds of English.
Yeah.
I can see how that would be really helpful, especially for getting over the fear of speaking.
Absolutely. And as you get more comfortable with shadowing, you can even try it without pausing the movie, which really challenges your ability to process and reproduce spoken English in real time.
Okay, I'm adding shadowing to my list of must-try techniques. The one thing I struggle with is remembering all the new words and phrases I come across. Any tips from the sources on that?
You're not alone. Vocabulary acquisition is a key part of language learning. One suggestion that came up repeatedly was good old-fashioned note-taking. Keep a notebook handy while you're watching and jot down any words or phrases that are new to you.
That's a classic for a reason, right? It forces me to really pay attention and engage with the language. But I have to admit, sometimes I get lazy and just want to relax and watch the movie.
I hear you. And for moments like those, there are some great tech tools that can help. Several of your sources mention apps like Anki or Quizlet, which let you create digital flashcards.
Oh yeah, I've heard of those. They use spaced repetition to help you memorize new vocabulary. Maybe I should give them a try. It could be a fun way to turn vocabulary practice into a quick game.
Exactly. And you can even create flashcards with screenshots from the movie to help you remember the context where you encountered the word or phrase.
I like that. It's all about making the learning process as enjoyable and engaging as possible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered choosing the right movie, using subtitles, strategically shadowing, and even some vocabulary building techniques. But I'm curious, does the type of movie we watch actually make a difference? Do different genres offer unique learning opportunities?
That's a fantastic question, and you're in luck because your sources had a lot to say about that. It turns out that different movie genres can absolutely target specific areas of English learning.
Okay, I'm ready for a genre deep dive. What have you got?
Well, let's start with a popular favorite, romantic comedies, or rom-coms, as they're often called. Why do you think those might be good for language learners?
Well, they tend to focus on everyday conversations, relationships, and emotions, right? So I'm guessing they're great for picking up practical vocabulary and phrases I could use in real life situations.
You got it. They often feature dialogue that's clear, relatively slow-paced, and full of expressions you might use when talking with friends, family, or even that special someone.
Ooh, maybe I could even brush up on my flirting skills in English. Do you have any specific examples of rom-coms that are good for language learning?
Absolutely. One that stood out in your sources was Notting Hill. It's a classic for a reason. The dialogue is witty, charming, and full of everyday British English. Plus, it's just a really enjoyable movie to watch.
Notting Hill. I'm adding it to my watch list as we speak. Okay, so rom-coms are great for everyday conversations. What about something a bit more serious like dramas? What can we learn from those?
Well, dramas often delve into more complex themes and emotions, which can really expand your vocabulary and expose you to a wide range of sentence structures. You'll encounter language that expresses deeper thoughts, feelings, and even internal conflicts.
So it's like leveling up my language skills. I can move beyond the basics and start expressing myself in more nuanced and sophisticated ways. What kind of movie comes to mind?
Well, one of your sources highlighted The Pursuit of Happiness as a powerful example. It tells the true story of Chris Gardner's journey from homelessness to success, and the language reflects those struggles, setbacks, and triumphs. You'll hear everything from moments of despair to expressions of determination and hope.
That sounds like a movie that could really stay with me, both emotionally and linguistically. Okay, so we've got rom-coms for everyday conversations and dramas for exploring deeper emotions. What about those action-packed blockbusters? Is there anything language learners can gain from explosions and car chases?
Believe it or not, action and adventure movies can be surprisingly beneficial too. The dialogue tends to be very direct and straightforward, often focusing on commands, instructions, and quick-witted responses.
So it's less about flowery language and more about clear, concise communication.
Exactly. Think about movies like Indiana Jones or Jurassic Park. You'll hear a lot of imperative sentences, action verbs, and vocabulary related to problem solving under pressure. It's a great way to learn how to express yourself clearly and effectively in high-stakes situations, even if those situations only involve escaping dinosaurs on screen.
Okay, that's making me want to go on an action movie marathon right now. But I also have a soft spot for science fiction and fantasy. What about those genres? Do they offer any special language perks?
They absolutely do. Science fiction and fantasy films often introduce you to entirely new worlds with their own unique vocabulary and concepts. Think about movies like Star Wars or Harry Potter. You'll encounter words and phrases related to technology, magic, mythical creatures, and all sorts of fantastical elements.
It's like learning a whole new language within a language. I can imagine my vocabulary expanding exponentially with those genres. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What about historical films? Do they offer any insights into the English language?
Historical films are like time capsules for language. They give you a glimpse into how people spoke in different eras, exposing you to formal language, historical terminology, and even different accents that reflect regional variations in the past.
That's fascinating. It's like taking a language journey through time. Do you have any specific examples of historical films that are good for this?
One that your sources highlighted was The King's Speech. It tells the story of King George VI's struggle to overcome a stammer, and it's full of examples of formal British English political speeches, and even moments of emotional vulnerability. You'll not only learn new words, but also get a sense of how language can be used to convey power, authority, and even personal struggles.
The King's Speech is definitely going on my watch list. I'm intrigued by the idea of learning how language has evolved over time. We briefly touched on animated movies earlier. Anything else we should mention about those?
Animated movies, especially those from studios like Disney and Pixar, are fantastic for language learners of all levels. The language tends to be clear, engaging, and often full of humor. Plus, the visuals can provide helpful context for understanding the dialogue.
They're great for both kids and adults who are learning English. I still love watching animated movies, and it's comforting to know that I can actually learn something from them too.
What about documentaries? Are they worth watching for language learning purposes?
Documentaries can be incredibly valuable, especially if you're interested in learning specific vocabulary related to a particular topic. They often feature interviews with experts which expose you to different accents and speaking styles. Plus, you'll pick up a lot of academic or technical language depending on the subject matter.
So it's like combining language learning with expanding my knowledge on a topic I'm interested in. Two birds with one stone. Any recommendations for documentaries that are particularly good for this? Your sources mentioned a wide range of options, from nature documentaries like Planet Earth, which is full of breathtaking visuals and descriptive language, to historical documentaries like The Civil War, which dives deep into a pivotal period in American history.
That's a great reminder that there's a documentary out there for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap up our genre exploration, I have to ask about musicals. I love a good musical.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if they offer any special benefits for language learners.
Musicals are a delightful way to enhance your pronunciation rhythm and expressive language skills. The combination of singing, dialogue, and storytelling creates a rich tapestry of language to explore.
Plus, they're just so much fun. I can't help but sing along.
Yeah.
And that has to be good for my pronunciation, right?
Absolutely. Singing along with the characters is a fantastic way to practice intonation rhythm and even work on specific sounds that you might find challenging in English.
Do you have any favorite musicals that you think are especially good for language learners?
One that came up repeatedly in your sources was The Sound of Music. The songs are iconic, the story's heartwarming, and the language is clear and engaging. It's a classic for a reason.
The Sound of Music. It is. I'm already humming Do Am I in my head. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about how movies can provide natural language immersion, how to choose the right films, and even explored the unique benefits of different genres. But how do we actually put all of this into practice? How do we integrate movies into a regular English study routine?
That's a great question. It's not just about passively watching movies. It's about actively engaging with them and incorporating them into your overall learning plan. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's important to set realistic goals. I can't expect to become fluent just by watching movies, but I can definitely aim to improve my listening comprehension, expand my vocabulary, and get more comfortable with different accents.
Exactly. And one of the most important things is consistency. It's better to watch a short segment of a movie every day or a full movie once a week than to try to cram a bunch of movies into a single weekend and then forget about it.
I know I struggle with consistency sometimes. It's easy to get sidetracked or lose motivation. Any tips on how to actually stick to a schedule?
One thing that really helped me was finding a specific time of day when I could consistently dedicate 30 minutes to an hour to watching a movie. For me, it was right after dinner. When I was already relaxed and ready to unwind, it became part of my routine, like brushing my teeth.
That's a great idea. I think I could do something similar, maybe right before bed so I can drift off to sleep with English phrases swirling in my head.
Exactly. And don't forget about those active listening techniques we talked about earlier. Don't just passively watch. Take notes, pause and rewind if needed, and try shadowing some of the dialogue.
Those techniques definitely make the experience more interactive and engaging. I'm also curious about using movies as a springboard for other learning activities. Any suggestions from the sources on that?
Absolutely. Several of your sources recommended writing summaries of the movies you watch, either in a notebook or even on a blog. It's a great way to practice your writing skills and reinforce your understanding of the plot and characters.
I like that idea. It's like turning my movie watching into a creative writing exercise. What about discussing movies with others? Is that helpful?
It can be incredibly beneficial. If you have a language partner or a friend who's also learning English, you can watch a movie together and then discuss your favorite scenes, new vocabulary you learned, or even debate the ending.
That sounds like fun. It's always more motivating to learn with someone else. I'm also wondering about using movies to explore topics that I'm interested in. Is that a good approach?
Absolutely. One of your sources emphasized that movies can be a gateway to deeper exploration. If you watch a historical drama, for example, you might be inspired to read more about that period in history or learn about the real-life people who inspired the characters.
That's a great reminder that learning should be a journey, not just a destination. Movies can spark our curiosity and lead us down all sorts of interesting paths.
Exactly. And as you explore those paths, you'll naturally encounter more English along the way, further enriching your vocabulary and deepening your understanding of the language.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about why movies are such a fantastic resource for learning English, how to choose the right films, the benefits of active listening, and even the unique learning opportunities offered by different genres. But before we wrap things up, I'd love to hear any final thoughts or words of encouragement you have for our listeners who are on this English learning journey.
Well, I think the most important thing is to remember that learning a language should be enjoyable. Don't get bogged down in perfectionism or feel discouraged if you don't understand everything right away. Just relax, immerse yourself in the world of movies, and let the language wash over you. You'll be surprised at how much you pick up just by watching and enjoying yourself.
That's such a great reminder. It's all about embracing the process and finding joy in the journey. And who knows, maybe you'll even discover a new favorite movie along the way.
Absolutely. And remember, every time you watch a movie in English, you're taking a step closer to fluency. You're exposing yourself to authentic language, absorbing pronunciation patterns, and expanding your vocabulary. It's a win-win situation.
So true. We've learned that movies can be so much more than just entertainment. They're a powerful tool for language acquisition and cultural exploration. Thank you for joining us today and for sharing your expertise. I know I'm feeling inspired to go watch a movie right now.
You and me both. And remember, listeners, keep those subtitles handy, practice your shadowing, and most importantly, have fun.
Thank you for listening to the Speak Smart podcast. We hope this deep dive has given you some practical tips and inspiration to supercharge your English learning with the magic of movies. Until next time, happy watching.